Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of July 2nd, 2012. Happy Canada Day to all you Canadians. Happy Independence Day to all the Americans. And if I missed your country, well, I'm sorry, but I wish you a happy whatever day it is, and wish I could be there. The Ask Videomail, don't forget, is your chance to get your question, character animation, or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it, so please send your questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions, and I answer the ones that I think will help the most people, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. And it's the best way, of course, to get the most out of your subscription. Speaking of which, welcome all the new members. I know that I get some new members whenever I do a webcast. We did a webcast on Friday on ergonomics. That will be posted on the website, but it takes a while to get it together. You have to bear with me. Camtasia chops up the files, and it also unsyncs the audio and video, so it actually takes a little while for us to get to that and resync it up and upload it in a format where you can view it on KennyRoy.com. But speaking of which, we will have the last webcast, which was the 11-second club, how to start a shot webcast. It was 6 hours or 5 hours, can't remember now, and it was a great time last month. A lot of people showed up, and I'm sure you're anxious to see the replay. So that was a lot of fun. Look for that on the site soon. And follow me on Facebook and Twitter, Kenny Roy. Just one word. That's me on Twitter, and of course you can search for me on Facebook and add me as your friend. I'm going to be making a big announcement about the little painter very soon. If you are interested in the little painter, if you don't even know what it is, watch the website and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You will find out about that shortly. Now, let's see. I think that's pretty much it. This video mail, I just want to say just one more time, it's really easy. There's no pressure. It doesn't have to be a great question, but I love it when new members send questions. I love seeing questions from people who are new to the site. There is sort of this little group of about 20 or 30 people that send in questions at least once a month, and I like to see from new members, why did you come to KennyRoy.com? What are you looking to accomplish? Or maybe you have a problem that I can help you out with. I'm sure I can. And so let's get the ball rolling on that. I think that's about it. And if you have if you are in the Shot Coach program, then you should have received an email from me by now. Please, if you are in the Shot Coach program and you haven't received an email, send me an email. I will respond. If you don't know what the Shot Coach program is, it's the program that I'm keeping it open. I've taken down all the little painter rewards, but I'm keeping up the Shot Coach. You can find that in the little painter section of the store for more information on that. I really like this week's question, and it actually spawned an answer that I'm very excited about. So let's take a look. Awesome. So thanks for bringing this to my attention. There's a really, really cool animation out there. It was the winner of the 11-second club that has so much face and hand interaction. I can't remember which one it was. Let's see here. I'll try to find it if I can remember which one it was. But it's just like grabbing the face and like really like pulling it down. When you're working with a character and you really want them to interact with their face, the first thing you have to just bear in mind is that you have to have that good contact, which means that you're animating very close, very, very detailed on those moments. You don't want to polish too soon, but to answer the question kind of how it was asked, you do have to, at some point, go from your rough, which probably just has jaw motion on it, and then go into your fine detail controls, which are probably clusters or deformers that are on the face. Now, when I said that this spawned a new question for me, well, here's what I mean by that. I actually realized that you might not know how to add deformers to a rig that doesn't have them. And mine doesn't make it too easy to do this. Adding a cluster can have really disastrous results after the fact. So I'm actually going to show you how to, once you have that pass where your hand is on the face and you've gone through all of your animations, so you know you're not going to be polishing too soon, and once you've figured out how to get that hand and the fingertips and the bend on that, which again, to answer the question how I was asked, yes, you do have to go in at some point and just like on twos or ones really work out the contour of the face with the fingertips, that kind of thing. It is time to add deformation on the face, but what if you have a rig that doesn't have deformation? So I'd really like to show you how to add some deforms to like a cheek or something like that, so that you can get that extra added layer of like kind of like pulling on the character. So let's take a look. So here we have Alfred, and it's actually an old version of Alfred. I think he's up to like 2.0 at least by now. And he has no face deforms. He has a facial animation panel, but he does not have face deforms. So what if I wanted to have the character put his hand on his cheek and pull his cheek down? What you can do is you can add a cluster. Now when you select the geometry and then you add a cluster, it adds it right on the origin, and the weight is 1 on the entire character. So if you go into the paint cluster weights tool and then just really quickly paint some weights where you want that cluster to affect. I want it to be the cheek. Okay, let's smooth it out a little bit. Just add a little bit of weight right there. Okay. Now when I move the cluster, it's moving the cheek. Now here's the problem. First of all, it's super annoying to have the cluster handle in the center on the pivot of the head when it's moving the cheek. Okay? The second thing that really stinks is that if I want to have it move with the head, it auto parents it to a group that rides within the head, and it creates. So I'll just show you. Just parented it. Oops, actually no, sorry. Up here, there's the head control. Moves it. Then you turn it to relative, right? But look at this crazy control. Like it's not moving like at all in the direction that I'm moving it. Why isn't it moving correctly? How am I supposed to do detailed animation when it's moving all over the place? And if I have to select it in the center of the head by default. So that really stinks, and we don't want that, okay? So I'm going to show you exactly how to make it so that you have a control right where you want it on the cheek. First thing that will make things easy is if we show the verts, or edges rather, on your character. Next thing we want to do is we want to create a locator, and we're actually going to create 3 locators, but we're going to create one for now. What am I doing? Here we go, locator, and we're going to put it right on the cheek where we want the cluster to be. Duplicate this locator and move it out of the way, okay? And then duplicate it. I'm sorry, don't move that one out of the way. Duplicate it again. Move this third one out of the way. So we have 2 locators, one riding right on top of another, okay? Then you want to move the cluster so that it's actually where the locator is. So what you do is you select the locator, open up the connection editor, okay? This allows you to connect attributes. And then what you want to do is you want to grab the cluster handle, and in the attribute handle, select the cluster handle shape tab and then hit select, so it's actually selected the cluster handle shape, okay? Down here, select, and then reload right in the connection editor. You want to connect the translate value, which is the translate values in world space on that locator, and connect it to the origin value of the cluster handle. And see, there you go. Now the cluster has snapped, and that little C icon is always just slightly above where the actual at origin is. It's not supposed to be right on it. It's a little annoying, but you get used to it. Okay? Move the connection editor out of the way. Don't close it. And now what we want to do is just select that cluster again in the outliner, and then hit W to translate, and then hold down D to move the pivot, and then hold down W to snap to vertices. And then we'll just snap it to that locator. So now we have our cluster, and it's moving predictably. Now look at this. It's moving predictably out here, right? It's actually moving. It feels like it's moving, how we would expect it to, right? And let me just paint a little bit more weight on here so that we're totally sure that we're getting perfect one-to-one movement. Okay. Now let's zero that cluster again. Now remember, when you move the origin and you zero the cluster, this is its new zero position. Now we're going to set up the constraints that make it so that it works correctly. First thing we're going to do is group the cluster handle and move locator 3 into that group. I'm sorry, locator 2 into that group, the one that's riding on top. We're also going to group separately locator 1. All right? And here's how it's going to go down. The head is going to move this group, the group with locator 1 in it, because the head is going to control the location of the parent of the clusters group. We're going to set up that constraint in a second. The reason we need to do that is because this locator, the reason clusters get all screwed up, I'll show you one more time. See how the cluster handle is moving perfectly, or the vertices are moving perfectly with the cluster? But even if I constrain the cluster, oops, gotta turn it to relative. I don't know how that turned off. Even if I constrain it, here's my parent constraint, even if I use a constraint, okay, look at this. Why is it going that direction? What is going on? Like, the kind of control would just not work, okay? So we don't want that. So the reason that's happening is because translation and rotation information is being added on top of this cluster, when all we really want is the translation information, because that's what hooking up the translate to the origin of the cluster kind of locks down. It makes it so that it's only getting the translation information, or it only uses the translation information away from the origin to determine how much to deform. Okay, so this is very easy to do. We take the head, we parent constrain this group. So now the origin, this locator, which is driving the origin of the cluster, is riding with the head. Okay, and if we rotate the head, oops, let me delete this parent constraint. If we rotate the head, you'll see that no deformation is happening, but the cluster isn't even moving with it. Okay. Then we have this locator, which is riding around in this group. We have this one, parent constrain this group, the one that has the cluster. Okay. Still nothing is working the way we would imagine. But what we do is, see what I mean by that is this. If we rotate the head and we grab that cluster, it's still moving weirdly, okay? What we do is, in the default position, we take this last locator that we created that's off here to the side, and we orient constraint, all right, without maintain offset, we orient constraint the first locator, so that, watch this, as the head rotates, instead of this locator riding that cheek and rotating, it stays upright. You see that? See how it's staying upright? Now, rotation information is not being passed on to the cluster, all right? Which means, voila, if we move the cluster handle, it's now moving perfectly this exact same way it does when the head is not rotated, okay? So this is imperative for animation, to have this kind of control, okay? And not that wacky, I don't even know what to call that, all right? And then the last thing that we wanted to do was we created this locator within this group, and here's why. I feel like grabbing clusters is a really hard thing to do, and you can do this. Actually, you know what? You can do this with a controller as well. Oh, looks like I don't have. That's okay. I'm just going to really quickly make a little NURBS controller right here, just like that. Freeze transforms, drop it in this group, and now take this little, we can even name this like cheek deform, all right? And now parent constrain the cluster handle, okay? So these are riding around in a group that is not getting any rotation information passed on through it. It is, I mean, it's picking up rotates, look, because it has that parent constraint, but the thing that's driving the rotates of this locator, which is driving this group, is actually sitting right here. It's like locked in space. And you can hide this. In fact, you can move this anywhere you want. You can scale it, just don't rotate it, right? So I'm just gonna hide this. I'm gonna hide this group. And actually don't even need to see the cluster anymore. And now, if we want to, animate like something hitting the cheek, even when, I'm going to animate it now, even when the head is animated like that, now we have a control that is perfectly controlling the way the cheek deforms. Okay? All right? And this will work on 99% of rigs. It won't work on rigs that are getting, actually it should work on rigs that are getting a blend shape that has deforms on top of it. It should work. But if it doesn't work, I'd really like to see it. If you come across a rig that this does not work and you have trouble with your scene, send me your scene. Why not? I'll take a look at it, maybe make another video mail out of it, and find out the problem, help you out. Just to answer the question one more time, kind of the way it was asked, yeah, there is a huge amount of like finger animation that you need to do. Yeah, of course, you need to, if it goes like over a ridge and then starts pressing in, you need to have control to bend them backwards. Actually, the rig Babinski, which was made for Animating 2012, which is coming up, has amazing control over the fingers. I'm really impressed with it. I'm looking forward to using it. But if you don't have that kind of control, it just is a matter of going in, you know, kind of joint by joint and doing that. But once you get to that point, it's not going to look right unless you have the proper deforms on the face. So I'd like to, you know, I wanted to show you how to do that, and you can't just, you know, click willy-nilly and add clusters. For some reason, Maya just doesn't like to give you a good cluster constraint setup right out of the box. So don't forget to check relative on that cluster. I'm not sure how that got unchecked, and you should be fine. So I hope that this was helpful to you. Unfortunately, I don't think I can redistribute Alfred, but you know, watch this video a couple times through and follow along, and you'll be in great shape. Okay? Thank you for that question. Please send more. Send them to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I love getting questions, and I love getting Maya files. I'd love to see some more of those. Okay, guys? It's been really great and really fun. Good luck with your animation, and as always, rock on.